Most people wait until something's wrong to see a doctor. You are not most people. I'm Kevin White. After more than 20 years as an emergency physician, I realized the best medicine is not waiting for the crash. It's helping people stay on the road. This is The Daily Apple, a podcast about living better, longer. Every episode gives you something you can use this week. A smarter habit, a clearer path, or maybe just a new way to think about your health. Because engaged patients are the best patients, and your best years do not have to be behind you. Let's get into it. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Daily Apple. I'm so excited today to be joined by Dr. Brad Younggren. He's out of Washington. This will be a cool talk. I'm looking forward to it, Brad. He is an emergency medicine physician. He's a U.S. Army combat veteran and is one of the leaders at the forefront of longevity medicine. He served as a combat physician in Iraq, where he was awarded the Bronze Star and Combat Medic Badge, and that experience kind of shaped your vision for a scalable, tech-driven healthcare. Worn a lot of hats, was the CMO and president of 98.6, helping build one of the first AI-powered text-based primary care platforms, CMO roles at Q Health, Shift Labs, and Mobisante, where you helped develop the first FDA-approved mobile medical imaging device, like you said, kind of before Butterfly, which is, you're kind of an innovative thinker for sure. But now what we're going to get into today is you're the CEO and co-founder of Circulate Health, where he's pioneering therapeutic plasma exchange as a way to slow biologic age, improve chronic disease markers, and ultimately extend health span. Under his leadership, Circulate has completed over 1,000 treatments across 24 clinics, correct me if I'm wrong, and really published multi-omics data showing an average 2.6 year in slowing biological age. So I'm guessing your vision and mission is to integrate rigorous science, cutting-edge technology, and patient-centered care to transform the way we think about aging. You are not the usual ER physician, and we share that in our background, so I just find that really intriguing about you. You're a different breed of ER doc for sure. So anyway, thanks for being here, man. I really appreciate you making the time.
No, thanks for having me. I appreciate the opportunity. Yeah, there's a whole cohort of us ER docs that have found other interesting things to do with our time. So it's been a great journey.
I really want to delve into TPE. People in the longevity space have probably heard a little bit about it and all that, but we'll get into that. But I just want to talk a little bit about you and your journey, because it's, even being an ER doc, you've got a little bit different experience. So you're kind of unique. But take us back kind of from, combat medicine in Iraq and into going from that to pioneering digital care, and now kind of leading this longevity-focused biotech company. Take us through that pathway. How did that work for you? What was your thought process? I went
to the military medical school, and after that, obviously, when I was an ER emergency medicine resident, 9/11 happened, so the entire focus and shift of the sort of military medical command changed. Finished residency, found myself, being deployed to Iraq soon after that. They, as you know, sort of pandemics and war brings a lot of healthcare innovation just by default, as we look for new and innovative ways to improve healthcare for soldiers' lives in this particular example. And they needed help with technology procurement on the battlefield, and no one was raising their hand, so I raised my hand, and then just got the amazing opportunity to be involved on some of the evaluation and procurement side of military medicine. Mm-hmm. We were just thinking about portable ultrasound, just thinking about a variety of other new technologies, how we could use telemedicine to reshape the way that we would apply traditional, military medical protocols around evacuation, et cetera, to the battlefield. So that experience was just right out of residency, just found that to be, a life-changing experience. And I mean, as being a combat physician. So it was like, both aspects of that became just life-changing for me. And I realized through those experiences that technology could really scale to save lives in a really different way. Like when I deploy something to the 550 people in my cavalry squadron, some new technology, like the way we could scale and the impact was just different than one-on-one patient care. So that was sort of that aha moment for me in terms of thinking about what do I want to do with the rest of my career. And so, the other area of expertise I had was early ultrasound, point of care ultrasound for the Army. So I decided to get out of the Army after my service was done and took over as the CMO of this company. And we started to build out this point of care mobile ultrasound device. So
Now,
that was
now hold on a sec. So what years were you deployed? Give me some time frame there.
Yeah, so I graduated residency in 2003,
Okay.
and then I was deployed 0405. So it was essentially OIF 2-3.
Okay.
I was assigned to the 214 Cavalry Squadron as their squadron surgeon. I had some other physicians and PAs that worked for me.
Okay.
We were essentially running border interdiction across the Syrian border. And yeah, spent a year with those guys in the Cav Squadron wearing the Stetsons and putting on the spurs and doing all the the amazing cavalry traditions. It was a
Really?
experience. Yeah.
So you were first Cav?
214 Cav. So different
Okay.
here. So it was essentially, there was a cavalry squadron that was assigned to each Stryker brigade. So
Yeah.
we were the second Stryker brigade deployed in Iraq, coming out of Fort Lewis.
Okay.
And so we were sort of this reconnaissance cavalry squadron within the larger brigade,
Uh-huh.
sort of infantry Stryker units.
Okay. Well, go ahead. I interrupted you. So from there, you went on to
Yeah, I went on to Mobisante. I was looking at sort of larger corporation, medical jobs, the FANG companies and so forth.
Yeah.
Decided to wait a little bit to understand what exactly I wanted to do with my time. A friend had a global health company, so I went there for a while, and then I ultimately took a CMO role at Q Health pre-COVID, helping them build their at-home microfluidics testing platform and going through all the FDA conversations about could patients swab their noses effectively and how could we build a tech platform in the back end to help patients understand their data. Obviously, Q Health accelerated rapidly in COVID, and then decided at some point I really wanted to move into software and AI systems. So I spent 8 years as the chief medical officer and president of 98.6 Technology. We built that up to a very large company. There were roughly 3 million patients on the platform. That ultimately, the whole care delivery team was sold to Glenn Tolman and Transcarent, and that whole team pivoted over to Transcarent. Ultimately, I decided I wanted to try something else. One of the key things I learned at 98.6 was on this mission to provide low-cost care to patients is it's not always just about the software. We could build fascinating software for hypertension management as an example. But patient engagement and patient utilization was really the trick and the hard part. And, we would try and move employers from 4 to 8% of engagement with the software. And those would be, good bumps in terms of engagement. But when you look at it holistically as a physician, you're like, why are we not at 80%? Right.
Yeah.
So that's challenging. And so one of the things I had a thesis around before taking this job at Circulate Health was I wonder what it would be like to move into a population where the patients are highly engaged and start to ideate and think about what can you build around technology in the quote longevity space, which obviously has a massive Venn diagram crossover with just generalized primary care. And that was sort of what led me down the road to let me just get in directly into the longevity space and see what I could build there. And ultimately was talking to Khosla Ventures about that, and they had an opportunity to take this company that had just finished what is now referred to as a Circulate trial and ideated how to bring that in as a real company. So that I went down in 2023. I looked at the data from the Circulate trial at the Buck Institute. My co-founder would be and is now Eric Verdin, the CEO of the Buck Institute. We had David Furman as an advisor already, and I love the idea of building a company that was grounded in science. PhDs, MDs, not doing N of one research. All this resonated with me as a physician. So I thought it was a really, fortuitous opportunity for me to take over as a CEO, what was now referred to as Circulate Health.
So tell me about that Circulate trial from 2023 that you just referred to. Can you comment on that very much? Yeah,
of course. So all comes really from the previous work by Dr. Conboy and others at Berkeley looking at rat parabiosis, which, just to review for the listeners, was multiple repeated studies that showed when you essentially hook up the circulatory system of a young and an old rat, which are essentially genetically similar otherwise, we would see phenotypic changes where the old rat would get younger and the young rat would get older. Of course, very simplifying this a ton based on the amount of research that went into that, but that was the general gist. So the idea was what if we did a human trial based on that science where we use plasma exchange as a methodology for impact on aging across a variety of sort of angles. And the idea was,
Before sometimes being an ER doc, I kind of go straight for the meat, and we should probably intro to what TPE is exactly, like what exactly is therapeutic plasma exchange, how it differs from simple blood donation or plasmapheresis. So I guess you should probably touch on that real quick. And then I want to come back to what you're saying there about some of the literature there.
That makes total sense. Yeah. So the way I categorize it in my own brain, and we have plasmapheresis and plasma exchange physician experts within the company. And I would never say that I'm, the expert. I didn't spend 30 years doing plasma exchange in hospitals, but sure. Plasmapheresis is more of a general term for a variety of treatments that could be done with a specific machine. That machine, if you go and donate blood, it's really the same machine that we're using for this particular longevity protocol. Mm-hmm. It's what I describe as it's a large centrifuge with the computer, and it's really spinning down your blood into its main components by density. So that way you can target removing whatever you're looking for. So as an example, if you go donate red blood cells, the machine is separating the blood out. It's taking out the red blood cells so you can donate those for to the Red Cross or wherever you're going, the blood bank in your local town. And then it's just returning the remainder of the substances back to you. So that's how we can do platelet donation or red blood cell donation, plasma, all that. So the idea was, could we use that machine for what's called therapeutic plasma exchange, which is a subset of plasmapheresis. And really the plasma exchange, as it sounds, is you're deciding to take out the plasma segment and then replacing it. If you're donating plasma, and there's some interesting research on that, you're really donating a smaller volume, 650 milliliters, so on, and they just replace that volume loss with like normal saline or something like that. The impetus for the trial was, could we provide a dilutional effect which would replicate what we saw in these rat parabiosis studies? In other words, if I take off a larger dose of your plasma, which is still very safe and proven with 25 to 30 years of scientific history and rigor and clinical rigor, could we remove markers of inflammation or proteins of inflammation or really anything that could be involved in inflammaging and replace it with something called albumin? Now, the albumin is not considered a blood product, but it is human-derived and generally from younger people. So the idea was, if we take out a larger plasma volume, replace it with albumin, will we see an impact across a variety of metrics that would be consistent with health span or lifespan? And that was the foundation and methodology behind the Circulate trial. I categorize the results and the data collection in three buckets. One is we haven't published this data yet, but we will eventually, is what I call subjective measures. So grip strength, balance, get up and go and walk 6 feet, things of that nature that are quantified in the longevity literature. We all know grip strength is important. It's a variety of reasons why, but so we wanted to make sure we captured all that. The second portion of what we did was measured about 2,500 or so proteomics, metabolomics, lipomics. We shipped all that blood to the Buck Institute. They ran complex analysis on that. That's why the Buck partnership was so important. One of many reasons that it was so important for this particular trial. So we ran all that, and we know and would expect certain phenotypic changes to occur with healthier impact. So reduction in cellular senescent cell protein markers is an example, many things like that. Mm-hmm. And the third area we looked at was biological clock testing. Now, those are controversial across many dimensions. But the theory was, and I've adopted this from leaders in the field that I think are looking at this correctly, which is, if you use a biological clock, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're younger than your chronological age. It probably means more that you're very healthy, and that's a very good thing. And that engenders improvement in health span and hopefully lifespan. Mm-hmm. But the way you can use it is, I have a person, I apply an intervention against that person, and then I measure it again after I apply the intervention. Typically look at what's the impact of the intervention. Is it having a positive impact or a negative impact? So we ran that against all the 36 biological clocks that are on the commercial market at the time of the study. Just to let's see what we find out. We're not going to pick one or two. We're just going to do all of them and the different methodologies that are behind those, because there are different methodologies behind those. And we'll just see what we find.
Whenever you look at some of these biomarkers that move the most, are you seeing improvements in things like inflammatory cytokines and, ApoB? Are you seeing changes in Lp(a)? Like, what were some that were most exciting to you? Because, some of those things are hard to move. Like, Lp(a), if that's elevated in somebody, that, puts them in a different risk category, but that can be notoriously difficult to lower. What'd you see on that? What were you excited about on that? What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, I mean, it's all three areas of research showed positive impact. That's the high level, which is really exciting. So we'll publish some data, and we didn't put it in the original Circulate trial paper because it was really focused on the lipomics, proteomics, and the biological clock testing. So more papers to come.
Yeah.
So that looked all encouraging, and we presented that at a variety of conferences, so it's public, but looks good and is worth reporting. Across all the lipomics, proteomics, et cetera, SAS protein markers as an example, senescent cells. One of our patents is on using plasma exchange for reduction in cellular senescent cells. Why? Because we have the data to prove that looks like what's happening. So that's exciting. And so obviously many other things are happening in the bloodstream to reduce inflammatory markers, as you alluded to. Mm-hmm. There are other machines, but similar sort of methodology that just specifically targets to remove lipids. So any patient who has like familial hyperlipidemia syndrome, who's engaging with plasma exchange or a variant of that for reduction in lipids, we also do see removal of lipids with plasma exchange. Of course, it's non-specific, so you are also reducing HDL, not just LDL as an example, but in general, those shift in the way we would hope to. And I've actually personally monitored that in myself as an N-of-1 experiment just to see what's the impact of plasma exchange on my LDL markers without any other intervention.
What did you see? Yeah, comment on that from your N-of-1 on you. What were your outcomes yourself?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I had, as many of us were targeting lowering our LDL, and through statins, I'd gotten it down to about 65, 68, and I wanted to kind of try and go lower. So I was like, well, I'm not going to add any other secondary line agents yet. Let me just see what it naters out at with plasma exchange on a cadence. And so now it sits at about 50. So it's had an impact. I mean, so that's interesting. There's certainly other ways to attack that, but it's just one of the many benefits of getting it, as you do get a nice little reduction there. But I think, of course, I don't think that's reason enough. You could just lower lipids by other less invasive technologies and pharmaceutical agents. But it was an interesting N-of-1 experience for me, looking at my homocysteine levels, HSCRP levels, standard things you think from an inflammatory perspective. I really caution to comment N-of-1, but I do find it fun to play around with my own numbers and just see how that impacts. And the third area, as I talked about, was these biological clocks. And like I said, we looked at all of them. There'll be some subsequent papers coming out specifically with targeting some specific biological clocks and the impact of plasma exchange. So that'll be exciting when those papers come out. Just reviewed one last week. And that's where you refer to, we had this on average of 2.6 years of biological age reduction with 3 months of therapy. It's probably worth highlighting just briefly that we had 4 cohorts, and the study was well done, and it was started before I even arrived, so I can't take any credit for it. But we had plasma exchange that was given to patients twice a week per month for 3 months. The second group was on that same cadence, but we added a very small, I call it a whiff, of IVIG, 2 grams of IVIG. And there was some theory behind that. Let's just see if does that help in some way to support the immune system for the patient, a little bit of immune protection, although we're obviously not taking out a ton. We're not actually depleting the patient to the point where they should be immunocompromised, but we just wanted to see what the impact would be. And then the third group was 1 treatment a month for 6 months. And the fourth group was very interesting. It's called our sham arm, where we actually drew blood out. The machine was always behind a drape, so the patients didn't know the machine got turned on. So they didn't actually know, and we gave them saline back to the arm, and the return lines were covered with drapes as well. So patients didn't actually know whether or not they were getting true plasma exchange. And so that way we could have this comparator. And if you look at the study, which is an aging cell, it's free, you can look it up. You can see that basically all 3 groups had positive impact that actually got plasma exchange. There were some differences between them, but they all had positive impact. And then if you looked at, like, as an example, the biological aging of the sham group, which basically got nothing, their biological ages actually increased over the 3-month period, interestingly. So I don't know how to postulate it other than just like these patients having continuous insults, whatever their lives are, but they're not getting plasma exchange. But I think it provides a good counterpoint for the other three cohorts, which had relatively reproducible data around positive impact on metrics of health span.
So how were you? So you had 4 arms, and my understanding is there were all these patients were 50 or over, and there were about 50 patients total, and it was over a course of 6 months. And so some people had it every 2 weeks or 2 times a week treatments. Is that, and then the next one had once a month, and then there was the sham trial, which had no, actually worsened. All the rest of them as an average went down about 2.6 as far as the rate of aging. Is that, do I understand that correctly?
Yeah, like they came in on a Tuesday and a Thursday, 1 month, then came back a month later, got two treatments on a Tuesday and Thursday.
Okay.
And then did that a third time. So and then that was one group. The second group had the same methodology, but added 2 grams of IVIG once the treatment was completed. And the other group, as you said, was just 1 treatment a month for 6 months.
Okay. And that was over the course. All those people were over the course of 6 months.
Well, the two arms are getting it twice a week.
Yeah.
Everyone got just 6 treatments over the trial. So 2 cohorts got it over 3 months. 1 cohort who was only getting 1 month. It took 6 months to complete their data collection.
Gotcha. And pretty robust as far as they were doing multi-omics, they were doing epigenetics, they were doing inflammatory markers, the whole gamut of evaluation there on everybody. Okay. Cool. Yeah, I've got people that are already excited about this that have been reaching out and texting me about this stuff. All right. And that was with aging cells. So that was actually done before you actually came along. Is that correct? Is that what I understood?
Well, I came along, the data collection was 80% done. I sort of managed part of the completion of the data collection. We had the preprint we published in June of 2024. The peer review was done in May of 2025. So that's when the announcement, we got the New York Times article, et cetera, written up about what we were doing with plasma exchange. So still relatively recent that the peer-reviewed paper finally came out. Took a little while to get through that, of course, as those things go. And then we've been really leveraging that data to come in and commercialize this sort of product based on that data, which has been fantastic. My approach has been, let's just go into existing clinics and offer the procedure to their patients. And then we can start collecting data, which can impart uncover additional benefits to the product and the treatment. So we're in about 24 clinics, as you said, around the country. We're about 4 or 5, probably outside the U.S. by the end of the year. And so we're able to come in, we bring our machine, our nurses, and offer this treatment.
Yeah.
Quality management, all the things you'd expect from a company like ours. But one of the exciting things is we're able to start collecting data and ask specific questions that go beyond just the Circulate trial. And we can leverage what we call our affiliate clinic network as partners to collect this data and continue to publish and get insights. We are, ironically, probably the largest outpatient plasma exchange company now in the U.S., which isn't saying much with 24, but it's just traditionally been a procedure that's been in hospitals for very limited indications or in an outpatient blood bank. So we're excited about that. We have, our biggest area of new research has been in micro nanoplastics. We started that in the spring of 2024, actually. I don't know about you. Like for me, I've known some of the basic protective measures, but when those articles started to come out, like in the New England Journal about plastics embedded in carotid arteries, CNS nerve, intracranial nerves, I was like, this is really big deal. Doesn't sound
Brad, you are totally answering all my questions before I even ask them. You're perfect. I mean, this is, you're, like you said, you're leveraging the partnership model, which is totally different. I was going to ask you why you even did that without building clinics from scratch, but it seems like it's a better way to get this, methodology kind of in circulation, and get going. But yeah, I'm so glad you're hitting on, microplastics and all that. And I want to know what you've seen, what's the early data showing there. So anyway, keep going, man, because I like where you're heading.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. Well, as far as the model, I basically just looked at it, and this is my 5th startup. So I was looking at it, and I was like, to build your own clinics, to build a brand around your own clinics requires a different kind of capital, and it would be very, very slow. And there's a lot of good people doing good work out there already. And my perspective was, why why try and do that? We can go so much faster and collect so much more data in partnership when we don't have our own clinics. The clinics don't view us as competitors. And that's really working. And I think it's great. So we just have our narrow lane of plasma exchange at this point in time, and allows us to continue to expand more rapidly and sort of magnify this data set collection across multiple parameters. First one being microplastics. So I think pretty confidently we have the largest treatment set. I call it a treatment set, meaning what's the effect of a treatment on reducing micro nanoplastics from the body. This is such a new topic, but it's so fascinating. I mean, I think we'll be seeing a ton of stuff, the next 5 years on this. None of us, I think, believe these are inert substances. They're having some impact on the body. And it'd be nice to uncover what those impacts are. And so we just started doing testing on patients before and after their plasma exchange, and just looking at the impact of plasma exchange on plastic levels. We've also actually begun doing primary research with the Buck Institute on this area of work. So it's not only we're doing clinical and therapeutic work, we're actually partnering to do additional bench work to better understand this really early area of science, to understand how do you look at these cells, where do they live in the bloodstream? We ultimately need to understand where do they reside in the body. Can you remove them from solid organs? There's, in blood vessels, there's lots of questions we don't understand yet.
And you've been checking them. I think via like a finger stick or something, where you actually evaluate them pre and post treatments. Like, what have you seen? Have you been able to track that as far as intervention outcomes with, as it relates to microplastics?
Yeah, I'd say we're hoping to publish the data set again, under this notion of not jumping the gun and trying to be grounded in science. We want to continue here and be we're not reporting on 5 people. So we're just literally collecting more data. I'm hoping we'll present in the fall. I would just say that the data looks encouraging, and I don't know of any other potential option other than avoidance techniques, but as there's some jobs where people are going to have higher risk for exposure just by the nature of their employment. Or what we've learned is obviously water source is another big impact. There's so many other things. I've learned so much in the last year, how much of your plastic burden is actually from inhalation. That's much higher than I ever thought. When I started reading the articles from the experts, I was kind of blown away. All those fancy workout clothes that we all love, that are very comfortable, that have, embedded plastics or plastic derivatives. We're actually, breathing some of that in. So it's not just about what's your water source as an example, but that also matters. Is it groundwater? Is it glacier water? So there's just so many environmental factors that play a role in our exposure level. But from a reduction perspective, I don't know of anything else out there right now that's even a potential way to sort of get plastic burden out of your body. So we're really excited about this. We'll, as soon as we can, we'll share the data, but I'd just say it looks very encouraging. I think this is going to be a continued area of work for Circulate for the next decade.
Yeah. So many questions, man. So you're working with clinics. How do clinics get connected with you guys? How does that work? Do they just reach out to you and look up Circulate, or are you guys seeking out clinics, or are you happy with where you're at? Because I know you guys are extremely busy and have so many clinics across the country. How's that looking for you guys right now?
No, we're still expanding. I mean, we had on the commercial side, clinics come to the website or word of mouth or whatnot. And we're excited to help and empower clinics. We have a model which is really nice. Clinics can figure out, what the right capacity is for them, and we can support them. So it doesn't have to be massive clinics. Smaller, with the way we do it, smaller clinics can also offer this to their patient population. And we love that because patients, clinics that have physicians who are advocacies for their patients, those are the best partnerships for us. So we are expanding in the US. We're obviously expanding abroad now and sort of enjoying this first mover status, if you will. We're on the back end. We're building a bunch of software for quality management, safety, data collection. So my COO is Robbie Sweetser. He was vice president of Amazon Prime before I met him at 98.6, where he was the chief product officer. So we're excited to build software to connect this back end and sort of create a more larger utility software that can really bring this data together faster in time. Obviously, we can do that on a global scale, not just a US scale. So that we have patients come to the website, so we try and help them figure out where they can go for treatments. We have clinics that come to the website, and for the clinics that come on board, we have our own physician leaders. We got Dr. Bob Weinstein, he's a legend in apheresis. We got legends in nursing, and we sort of turn the whole team onto the clinic. And before we go live, we have a whole program to step up to that moment where we actually will start delivering plasma chambers in the clinic. I'm biased, but I think we've really anchored around quality, safety, to make sure that we're doing this right as we roll out and grow.
Yeah, I think this is pretty exciting because the more you learn about in the longevity space, and you can comment, whatever your thoughts are. If you want to age fast and quickly, stay inflamed, and the whole inflammaging and all that stuff. I say that as I've got this big inflammation right here on my eyelid, and just went with the LexCorp T-shirt just in the spirit of early Halloween. But maybe I need a treatment. But yeah, it seems like it's really working well, as lowering inflammation and everything is pretty awesome. I know Matt Chamberlain and another guy, Joe from Seattle, had done a procedure, and Joe commented, of course, this is just one person, but he said after he had that treatment, he had the best sleep that night of all. Is that something you see occasionally? I'm kind of getting off on a tangent, but
no, I mean, I find that a lot of patients find that they, because people always ask, what should I expect post-procedure? We have a bunch of information for patients and all that, but generally, it's common for patients to be tired that night and then get a good night's sleep.
Yeah.
Wake up feeling really refreshed. So that's a bonus, I guess, if you will. Obviously you mentioned Matt. Matt's great. We brought him as an advisor just to add to our advisor. I always say that advisors keep me honest. They're all a lot smarter than me, and that's perfect and grounded in science, and so that's helpful. And we're about to bring on a new advisor that is an expert in microplastics, and that's going to be our next advisor. So we have someone in-house that can lead our direction and guide us in the future.
Brad, you got a really great team around you, and guys, with the Buck Institute and all that, it seems like you've got a really good power team there. They're going, so I'm excited about where you guys are heading. So, I guess if someone wants to start measuring and managing biological aging, where would they begin? Here we are talking about all these inflammatory markers and things. Where would somebody start to think about that?
I think there's a variety of online companies that offer a myriad of tests which go beyond just the baseline.
Yeah.
And I think, if you're going to do it on your own, you don't really understand a lot about the test. But obviously I end up being the inherent longevity doctor for all my friends. Yeah. I'm like, just go get all those lab tests and, I can walk through them with you, but it also allows the patient to kind of start to walk through them and learn about them on their own.
Yeah.
Of course, obviously going to a practice that has a physician expert is going to be the most ideal circumstance to help guide them through the process. And then once you have your baseline markers, you can start to look at, which ones are you interested in impacting? What kind of impact can you make, whether using, methylfolate for reduction in homocysteine, all the things I find those to be really interesting personal experiments for me as a patient to figure out what are the impact of the therapies that I'm, trying in the space. So very exciting. What's interesting too is, I feel like we're entering this renaissance of plasma exchange. I'm obviously biased, but I'm just so excited about it.
Sure.
There's a lot of synergies, and this is I think the next decade, what we'll look at, which is plasma exchange plus X. And you'll probably see this. We're already doing some research with a couple clinics on this.
Yeah.
And I think we'll see a bunch of interesting stuff come out. Plasma exchange plus this, because obviously this reduces inflammation, as you said, reduces inflammation in the body. By doing that, combination therapies could be really impactful. And so we have to do the research and do the science and collect the data to understand that better. But I think it's a really interesting area for us the next 5 years.
Yeah, that was going to be my next question. Are you looking at doing any data collection and combining therapies like with rapamycin or other interventions along with, TPE? Is that something?
We're looking at multiple dimensions. The way we run our research program is we have inherent research that we bring to the clinics. Mm-hmm. As an example, we have a partner with Kernel, which is a non-invasive helmet that looks at mild cognitive impairment and biological age testing. Mm-hmm. And so we have a couple of clinics. We're doing R&D research there. So we're bringing research to clinics. We're also listening to clinics. So we have individual clinics that have a passion around a specific biomarker, heavy metal, you name it. They want to do a cohort of work on TP pre and post and look at that. Yeah. And so we're doing those projects too. And those are narrow. Of course, they will layer into a larger data set. We have some clinics that are willing to partner on the research. Now it's all optional, but we're able to start to, since we're agnostic, we can say, hey, we have another clinic that's also interested, and they can decide if they're excited to work together on this particular project. And then obviously for me, what I want to do is collect this data and then just shine the light on the clinics that participate with us, and get that data out there. So that's an exciting part of our research partnership angle.
So talk to me about cognitive decline. I know we're doing this brain health program with OptiSpan and a Human Sync, and there's been a lot of discussion about incorporating TPE in some of our protocols. And I know you've been in conversation with Matt, but tell me about how the intervention with TPE with cognitive decline. Have you seen any data there? It makes sense theoretically. Can you comment on that at all? What are your thoughts there, Brad?
Well, I think the foundation is the ANBAR trial, which was a pretty large, expensive trial that was done trying to look at Alzheimer's and cognitive impairment and plasma exchange.
Yeah.
A lot of the talks that I go to, I present that data, even though I had no part of the trial itself. But I think it's an important indicator when you look at the impact of plasma exchange and reduction of cognitive impairment in different cohorts of groups.
Yeah.
The early data, and it's not enough data, but the early data suggests you can really sort of dampen out that curve. So it's really interesting, needs additional research trials, larger trials to figure out where the impact is. There's other angles that some of the clinics were looking at doing projects around specific mild cognitive impairment biomarkers. What's the impact of plasma exchange on those specific biomarkers? So those are really interesting areas of work. I think it's work that has to be done.
Yeah.
I have to just be disciplined and figure out where can we get the most. There's trials that are going to cost multi-millions of dollars, and there are trials that will not. So we're still growing, and we have to be smart and strategic about it. But we have to get there. Obviously, I think those companies you mentioned are doing great work in the space. We hope to partner with them and kind of start to get some data to figure out what's the impact on mild cognitive impairment and plasma exchange. But it's a really interesting area to explore for sure.
Yeah. I'm going to ask you a few more things where, fast forward 10 years, you're in this space, you're embedded, your advisors are sharp people. As you think about this stuff, fast forward 10 years, what's one of the biggest unlock in human longevity you think we'll have? What's a few things on the horizon that you think about? I know I've got my things that I'm always milling around, but
there's so much interesting stuff going on right now, as you know, and I don't even know where to begin with it, but I think plasma exchange will be part of the puzzle.
Sure.
But all the work, early indications around Clotho, looking at plasmid integration, I don't know what's going to come out from a safety and efficacy perspective, and I think we need to stay grounded in science and look at those things appropriately before we scale these administrations. But I think it'll be interesting to see which ones of those things really evolve. I'm certain that we will find things that will impact health span. And, maybe it inspects, and I think by default, I don't know, but I think you probably agree with me that some of the stuff we're doing is likely to impact longevity and help people live longer lives. A lot of what I focus on is, can we just get people to living healthy lives? So 99% of your life is healthy and enjoyable before you sort of fall off the cliff, so to speak. And that alone is, a valiant effort for the medical community and biotechnology community to figure out. But I talk to my kids about biotech, and I'm biased, but I'm always like, I think this is an area you should look at, because I think 25 years are just going to be profound here, and how we AI and AI discovery and how that layers over this. And I'm hopeful once we build this affiliate clinic network in the background, we can start to really accelerate the answer of questions and collect data at scale around some of these interventions in a way that we can get the data out faster. Patients are looking for it. They're looking for answers, not just in longevity. This, we have clinics that are mostly focused phenotypically on chronic disease. Mm-hmm. There's patients that are looking for syndromic answers, long COVID, POTS syndrome, a lot of unanswered questions. We don't fully understand the etiology and nature of some of these diseases, and when we need to.
Yeah. And again, TPE in this realm is really low risk and potential real value there. So I love what you're doing, man. I like the way you think, and you've got a great team, and you guys are doing it the right way. And like you said, partnering with other clinics across the world makes it where it gets more accessible, to patients, to people. So where can people learn more about you, Brad, and Circulate Health and the whole deal? What's the best way to do that?
Yeah, our website's probably a great place to start. It's circulate.health, and we have information and the article links and so on and so forth. And people can reach out from the website to get more information. We're happy to sit down. I talk to people all the time at conferences or even just pick up the phone. People just want to hear a little bit more about it one-on-one. And so, we're always happy to do that as well. So,
yeah. Well, cool. So circulate.health. Well, anything else you want to leave us with, Brad? Any other thoughts, parting ideas?
No, I think we've covered so much here. I appreciate you having me on the podcast. And I think it's such an exciting time across so many dimensions of this. And again, I think so much is primary care. My hope is by driving innovation in this quote longevity space, we will get some trickle down. And, we need to answer questions about full body MRI. Is this technology, as an example, something that should be massively deployed in population? And there's controversy there, but controversy to me just says we need to go answer the question and figure out what is the right application of that technology, so on and so forth. So thanks for the opportunity to sort of I know I had flight of ideas and bounce around a bunch, but hopefully the listener will find it valuable.
Well, Brad, thanks a lot. And man, enjoy the rest of your day. And everybody, thanks for listening, and see you guys later. Bye-bye.
Take care.